Hello and welcome to another one of these little live stream things where I paint some stuff. How is everyone doing at home? I've been more than a little bit disorganized today. I have just about managed to set myself on track to stream. I usually try and get the stream up kind of at least an hour in advance. Didn't manage that today. It was about 25 minutes. But we have a bunch of stuff in front of me that we could possibly paint. As is traditional, most of it is Konflikt 47. I think what we'll probably be working on for the most part is the fireflies. Let's just shuffle the camera over so that it's in a more sensible place. I've got a bunch of fireflies. I've been doing base coats on them for the last few weeks. It's odd, kind of, the way I've been painting since I started live streaming. It has actually had an effect on how much painting I'm doing. Not necessarily how much, but kind of what painting I get around to. Because in the past, I would have done a few base coats on these, and then some other time during the week, I would have gotten along and finished them. But as I'm live streaming them, I'm kind of painting a bit, and then I'm leaving them for the live stream and painting something else during the week. I'm not sure if that's important at all in the slightest bit. Like, does it matter if I start painting? If I start painting a model on stream and then I don't finish it on stream, is the completionist side of things important at all in any way? Andre, hi, how you doing? Welcome. All right, where are we going to be working? We're going to be working there. That's I want the camera a bit higher, actually. Yeah, it's better. And then focus. That might do it. That might do it. So the question I have at the moment, the kind of the next step for me here, I need to get the base coats on the metalwork, so the Thompsons and the other weapons mainly, but also the gold for the repulsor pack. But there is actually some details that I might like to do in gold on the gas mask, and to do that I need to base coat the rest of the gas mask first, because it's going to be really difficult to get around it. But what color do I paint the gas mask? I'd like to see the finished piece, but it doesn't have to be on stream, says Andre. The point I was making was when I'm painting something like the fireflies, do I paint every part of the painting of the firefly on stream? Or if I do a little bit of painting on stream and then a little bit of painting off stream, is that okay? Actually, you've reminded me, because I need to take a picture of my shred ribbon, because I finished those off last week and I haven't posted a picture. So I hopefully will remember it if I can get those. I'm doing some photography tomorrow for another video, so if I remember, I'll get those up. If I do the gas masks in black with silver detailing, I can do the hands with black gloves. Would that be too much? That should really start black. Let's try it. Let's have a go. Just going to bring my music down. It is quite a bit louder than normal. There you go. So one option would be trained by Aaron. Hello, welcome to the stream. Both Aaron and Andre are saying dark brown is better. Let me try one in black, and I will actually try one in brown, because I think that is a nice idea. And given that we've got all of this dark brown on the model, that might actually tie together a little bit better. We shall see, we shall see. I'll finish this one off in black. I want to do the metalwork on both as well to get a proper comparison. That was a lot of silver, although we'll be using it today, so that's not a problem. Who needs sub-assemblies? Just stuff a brush in there, it'll be fine. See if I can get a point on this brush and do the this silver paint does not show up over black at all. Like, it almost just looks like it's a glossy black rather than a metallic. So if we go with that, I may have to switch over to the I have a much brighter silver. Yeah, see over the green there, where in the lenses where I didn't put the black. So that's that. Should probably paint the lenses. I'm having a lovely bit of trouble with my chair at the moment. If I disappear, just absolutely disappear off of stream, my chair has failed me for the last time. Probably should buy a new one. Oh, I have not used this paint in a while. Oh, look at that colour. Just a really pale blue. It's really lovely. So I'm planning on using this paint specifically on the Sturmriser at some point. So that's a look. Black mask, blue on the goggles, metallics on the filters and the goggles, the rim of the goggles, and then of course silver metallic on the gun as well. Now I'll do one in brown, as chat is suggesting. Is that a fair comparison? I think that's... Oh, you can't see that. I was just seeing these two. Yeah, they look a similar pose, so it would be a realistic comparison. Brown. Too much water. I'll do the gloves as well. My instant worry here is that the gloves are going to end up looking like the woodwork of the Thompson. Or they'll look like brown skin when they're supposed to look like gloves. If I get paint on every single bloody helmet in this video live stream, I'm going to be rather annoyed. Just there we go. So that's that. So now we do metallic. There's this kind of, I don't know, widget on the side of the Thompson that I haven't actually worked out exactly what it's for. So we've got the Tesla coil underneath the barrel So we've got the Thompson barrel, and then below that we've got the Tesla coil for the E-slug. And at the front and back of that, there's two like little dimples, which I assume is the electrical contacts for the Tesla coil. But then on top of that, or rather behind that, right here, there's a something, and I don't know what it is. I think my headphone cable is caught up on something because it keeps dragging. Give that a second to dry, and then we'll do the lenses. So the silver, the dark metallic that I have, is showing up better over the brown than it was over the black. So that's certainly an advantage. Well, that's not how paint works. Andre says the brown gloves work, they're not directly next to the wood. Okay. Not sure if I left it long enough to dry. I think it might be mixing. Anyway, we got the point across. Alright, comparison time. And bear in mind that the camera is a little grainier than real life, a little duller. I've never been able to really solve that issue. I can bump up the color intensity, but that doesn't actually really make it look realistic. Kind of like the black gloves, to be honest. Actually, the black on the dark metallic is starting to merge together, whereas the brown gloves aren't. This definitely feels a lot more sinister with the black gloves. Andre says on cam the brown reads better. I think it does in real life as well. Yeah, I think we're going with brown. I think brown is the correct option here. Which means this poor guy is going to have to get repainted. Get repainted. It sounds like a really, really weird insult from like 2015. Get repainted, nerd. Right, so, just like last week, where we painted a bunch of brown, we're going to be painting a bunch of brown. Kind of wish I'd have made that decision earlier, because then I could have just done it all in one go. But alas, we are not clairvoyant? We are not time travelers. We cannot read the future. The gloves do not take long to repaint. The mask is going to be a bit more interesting because I need to make sure I don't go over the metallic. Although I guess if I'm going to be painting all the metallics again anyway, I guess it doesn't matter. And the helmet strap that the soldiers are still not actually wearing because of that stupid myth about it breaking your neck. Oh, yep. All over where it don't need to be. At least this is relatively easy. Oh! Flamethrower guy, and I've just remembered why I was going to do black gas masks. It's because the flamethrower teams have the flight cap, and I was painting the flight cap brown, so I wanted to kind of distinguish them a little bit. I guess that's no longer the case. They're just going to all be brown masks. Brown masks and brown gloves. There are a few with bare skin, the character models. I was slightly tempted to mod those, like swap the heads out for masked heads, but I decided not to in the end. Same with the Style Troop, and actually I've done all of mine with all the plastic ones with helmets on, and then there's a couple of characters that are bareheaded, and I very nearly gave them all the helmets, but decided against it. Yeah, so that gubbin thing I was talking about earlier on the side of the Thompson, it's on the right hand side, the outside, but it's not on the left hand side. So I was wondering if it's some kind of control, but certainly, surely a control would be on the inside, the left hand side of the weapon, so that you could see it, perhaps. I need to remember when I'm doing the metallic to do the clasp, whatever it's called, that attaches all of the straps of the repulsor pack together. What's that called on a parachute? Or on a like a 5-point seatbelt harness? It's like the thing everything clips into. I assume it has a proper name. This is one of my favourite ones. Just hanging out on a little wall, looking up at, I don't know, something. Yeah. Done it again, painted the helmet. That's just going to be a running theme. I've done all Tesla Thompsons so far. That's not true. I've done one flamethrower. I don't really need to worry about separating them out until kind of much later on in painting, I think. Once I got all the basics down and the wash, and then I can start doing most of the highlights. And it's only really towards the end of the highlight step that I actually need to pick out particular weapons like the flamethrowers and the officers and the Wellses. If I have two Roberta Wells, are they Roberta's Wells or Roberta Wells Ziz? What's the plural form of a single person? Andre asks, do the Konflikt 47 models come with decals? They do. I have absolutely no interest in using infantry decals because they are absolutely feffing tiny and not worth my time. The vehicle decals I will be using, like the odd one here or there, but I'm also going to mix in some like the World War II decals because I have so many. Oliver, hi, how you doing? Nice to see the Firefly is back on the handle, yes. We've done a lot of work on the Fireflies so far. And by a lot of work, I mean just base coats for the entirety of it. I haven't done anything except base coats on these yet. Where's his thumb? Where's his thumb? Is that his thumb? I think that's his thumb. That's just a really unnatural way of holding a weapon. And I know, because I've held rather a few weapons. I know from seeing a few shops in my time. That is just such an odd way of... It's like a weird C-clamp, but with your wrist, like with your elbow twisted all the way around. Ugh. Not a fan. Would not be efficient. See, the one thing about my painting handle, now that Oliver's mentioned it, is that my normal handle, this is the one that I've actually ended up using this one a lot more than this one because of the way that I designed the actual holder. So this has a spring-loaded mechanism and it fits either a 25mm round base, like in there, or a 32, which I don't have any to hand. but it needs the taller, like the 3mm tall bases that are usually hollow on the inside. Whereas almost all of Bolt Action, and therefore also Conflikt 47, has the disc bases, and they're only 1mm tall. And so whilst technically they do fit, it's just not as stable. This is a bad example because this is actually holding it really rather well. You know what? Fine. I'll just switch over to this one. I was going to complain about it, but now it's just working. How dare it? So this one has much stiffer springs in it. So this one much more satisfying on the clanking. Actually, there's another good point that I could make here that you probably can't see. So the teeth here, I redesigned these a couple of times while I was working on this mechanism, and this is the final version, but this is the one just before the final version. The original version of these teeth, the very early one, were completely locking. They were completely flat sides. There was no rounding at all to them, and they would lock in. And so to move it, you would have to pull it, twist it, and then let go, and it would lock into place. You couldn't do this. You couldn't just turn it like that. And so I made those teeth a lot shallower and also rounded off the edges so that you could move that. And then when I came to this one, I actually made the ends of the each tooth completely rounded. So on this one, it's two rounded corners. Like each tooth has two rounded corners and a flat at the top, whereas this one just has like it's just round all the way over the top of each tooth. But also this one has slightly weaker springs, and so this one moves really smoothly. You can hear it clicking. But this one, slightly stronger spring and the slightly steeper walls on that. Very clanky, very clinky. There you go. Your ears are probably thanking me for that. I want to come back to this guy separately, actually, now that I've done all that. Because the Robertus Wells and the 3 officer models, there's another one, have bare skin. Whereas all of the others, there we go, there's the other one. Whereas all of the others have the gas masks and gloves. Or at least I'm painting them to have gloves. So I'm going to come back to those in a moment. Which brush was I using? Let's see about that one. I'm very good at going off on tangents. Or that's just a nice way of saying I'm very bad at staying on topic. Someone at my local group actually said they wanted one of my painting handles, and I can't for the life of me remember who it was. And now that I've got my FDM printer back up and running, I actually can do that. Big thanks to the Sturmreiser for being the model that I needed the bloody CR10 for. Forcing me to fix it. Yeah, I picked the nicer brush, and the nicer brush is not the nicer brush. Either that or this paint's just bad. But There is a model I want to paint at some point soon, and the start of the video for that will be something along the lines of, there are some models that are just so nice you need to crack out a nice fresh brush for, because I don't want to paint that with these things, because this poor thing, it doesn't hold a point particularly well anymore. I can coax it into a point, or at least enough of a point. Andre says, are there any gameplay differences between the Robertas? Or are they just alternative models? So it has been said that you can use either of them to be either of the Roberta Wells models, characters. But there are two different stat lines for her. So I don't have all of the information to hand. It will be in the army list, which is on Konflikt47.com. But the short version is, where is she? There you go. So this one is the original Roberta Wells model. That's her on foot, no Firefly pack, and she's got an M2 or an M3 carbine, which is an assault rifle for her, and she has a few abilities. She's kind of just a relatively reasonable character model, whereas the second version, which is actually slightly smaller, if you notice, she's more hero scale and more true scale in the two different ones. Maybe you can't quite see the difference on camera, but it is just about noticeable when you hold them up to each other. The new one, she does have a Firefly pack, so she's much more mobile. She has, I think, 3 points of Rift Mastery or Guts or something. It's mad. She has loads and loads of hero stats. And she has several other abilities as well. I think this one has 2 Rift dice and this one has 4 Rift dice. Although I might be misremembering that. Either way, the newer version of her is probably twice the points cost. Much, much more in terms of just the cost of the model, but has loads and loads of abilities. So there are differences between them. However, it's the same person, and the only real difference to the model is whether she has the repulsor pack or not. So you can use either one. No one's really complaining if you're using one model instead of the other, especially as this one, the original model, was only available at Warlord Open Day, so you can't actually buy that model anymore. So you would have to buy this one with the repulsor pack, the later one, and use her. But you can use her as you can use this model as either the early or late version of the character. That's a terrible way of describing it, but hopefully you understood. And how long have you been watching this channel if you can't decipher my nonsense by now? This is why I script videos, because I just kind of talk around in circles if I haven't planned out what I'm saying. Which is the difficulty that I had with the Sturmriser video that I just released. Because I filmed that in lots of different sections, unscripted, as I built the Sturmriser, I ended up with all of this dialogue or monologue from me that was so disjointed, kind of from one piece to the next, but also in terms of I was repeating myself a lot. So in one section I would say, this is what I've done so far, this is what I'm doing, and this is my plan for the next bit. But then in the next section of video, I would talk about that same thing. It's like, this is what I've done, this is what I'm doing, and this is what I'm about to do. And so I would end up saying the same thing several times, 2 or 3 times easily in some cases. And yeah, it's just very difficult to it is how I used to do videos, but it's a very difficult way to actually edit, because you have to hunt through it, kind of pull out all of the bits that don't matter, go through all of the copies, kind of the duplicate descriptions of something, and work out which one I actually want to keep. And in some cases, it was none of them. So if you notice during that video, there was a couple of bits where I go over to a scripted voiceover section just for a minute. That's because none of the original recordings of me actually discussing that thing were any good. Andre says, scripts are helpful, but I don't mind a bit of waffle. Yeah. A little bit is alright. A little bit, but not too much. And yeah. So how long? That video was 30 minutes long? The final cut of that video was 30 minutes long. My original recordings, just me sitting at the table talking at the camera, there was 2.5 hours of that. And I ended up with a half-an-hour video, and some of that was also like scripted voiceover that I recorded separately. And that's a lot. Compare my usual a usual video for me, commonly, let's say I record for 20 minutes and it becomes a 15-minute video. That's with a script, right? So I've read off the script and I just snip out the bits where maybe I kind of repeat a line to get a better take, or maybe I decide I want to cut out a bit of an explanation that's going on a bit long, and so I do adjust things in the edit like that. But it usually, yeah, like 20 minutes record time, 15 minutes video time is reasonable. But going from 2.5 hours to half an hour, yeah, it's just ouch. This is my favorite little one-handed conversion, given that there are no one-handed Thompsons in the entire box, and I went off on a bit of a rant about that, and I did convert this one, which took some doing actually. I need to work out what the points limit is for this weekend. We've got a kind of a casual meet up and play game day. I want to work out. I need to check what the points limit is. Because I have some friends coming, maybe, and I think that my fireflies, even if they are not painted yet, which they won't be, would make a nice appearance. I need to work out the points cost for the fireflies because I haven't done that either. How much is a firefly? Do I want to get... No, let's not do this while I'm streaming. I'll organise that another time. So what have I got? I've got 3 units of fireflies, 6 models, and with a total of 2 flamethrowers and 2 BARs. BARs are minus 5 points rather than plus because they are worse than the Thompson. And I'll put those as weapons teams. I heard someone talking about using the BAR as the assistant for the flamethrower. Because if you're at long range, you shoot the BAR, and if you're at close range, you shoot the flamethrower. And they kind of trade off against each other. And if you are at close range, you're not shooting the loader, so they may as well save 5 points on not having a Thompson. Seems like a sensible idea, but I haven't actually played with the fireflies yet. Andre says, is this your largest Konflikt 47 army, or would that be the Japanese? Easily the Japanese at the moment. I have... Oh, that's why. There's actually no... There's like a tiny dribble of water in there. Yeah, the Japanese are easily my largest. That might not be true, actually. Because how many totem core do I have? I've got about 20 totem core. And I've got about 20 Stahltrooper. Plus I've got Schwertruppen and some others. So I've got about 50-55 Axis troops. For my Americans, I've got... What was it? 25 fireflies, 8 heavy infantry. I've got probably 35-40 Americans, including mechs. My Japanese, Ashigaru, Shibito, Shiboru, the Ashigaru Shiboru. Battle frame, I've got about 20 battle frame now. Sorry, assault frames. 10, 20, 30, 40, 45 for the ghosts. Plus the vehicles is 50. Yeah, so the Japanese will be the biggest, but it's actually not by a massive amount. Oh, I left this guy on the other painting handle, so I need to bring him back. I did, just when 2nd edition was first announced, I did go through my Konflikt collection of the 1st edition stuff I had and did a little video of... I think it's called Am I Ready for Konflikt 47 2nd edition? Something along those lines. So it would be actually interesting. Once I've done a decent chunk for each of the nations... and I'm happy that I'm in a stable position where I've painted a lot of stuff. It might actually be nice to go and do a similar kind of thing, and like over the course of like 2 years, this is what I've built and painted for the game. I don't know exactly when that would end up being. Given how long it takes me to paint, given how much I will be painting, probably a couple years in. The thing is, I also want to play as with each of the nations. So I've basically only played with I've played one game with the Americans, but without the Fireflies. I've just played with the heavy infantry and the mechs that I had. Did I have my linebacker? I did. So I must have assembled the linebacker, played that game, before I assembled the Fireflies. That sounds about right. Look at this guy with his trigger discipline. Like, don't you know this is the 1940s? We don't do that kind of thing here. I remember everyone went mad when there was Games Workshop Space Marine with finger off of the trigger. I think it was a beaky as well, wasn't it? So a proper beaky helmet. Finger off the trigger. It's like, yeah. It's a good model. Right. So all the gloves and masks done. Now we're doing the models that aren't wearing gloves and masks. So if I can find paint that I usually use for skin tones. If I can find the... Oh, there it is. Oh, my chair just creaked and leaned over in a very, very unnerving way there. I may have to disappear off at some point and fetch a stool that I have in the other room and sit on that instead. So I remember when I got this paint, Bogman's Glow, Games Workshop paint, because I was painting skin with a brown undercoat and then a Caucasian highlight. And I was talking, I think it was in a video I mentioned that I would like to paint, it would improve the paint job if I put some red into the base coat, the actual brown, because that shows through the Caucasian highlight paint. And someone in the comments said, no, you should just use Bogman's Glow. And then I ended up with a pot of Bogman's Glow just accidentally. I didn't seek it out. I just ended up with it because it was in a paint set that someone got for me. And if you look at it, like, it's just brown with a bit of red in it. It just is. I'm not sure how well that's showing up on camera. Yeah, you can just about see the difference there. So his sleeve, his jacket sleeve, is in that brown that I've been using. And then the hand is now base coated with that Bogman's Glow. And it's like, it's just a little bit redder. Having specific paints for specific jobs can be helpful in that kind of a shortcut kind of way. But actually knowing how to mix paints is very freeing. We've also got some more trigger discipline going on here. He's left-handed. How have I not noticed that before? This guy's left-handed. Nice. The only left-handed Firefly. So one thing I do want to do, and I'm going to need a brush that isn't soft and wet for this. That one should do it. There you go. A way to paint sheepskin fur is paint it brown, preferably a lighter brown, dry brush it white, and then give it a brown wash. And then, if depending on what you want, you might give it another dry brush of white afterwards just to make it really bright, or you can leave it alone at that point. Andre says, have a few speed paints, but otherwise mix everything myself. I've been trying to mix my own speed paints. I've come dangerously close quite a few times. But I've come to the conclusion that I don't actually like to paint in that style. Not saying anything bad about it, it's just I prefer to paint in a different style, that's all. I halfway do want to borrow some Fireflies, speed paints, or contrast paints, or something of that. Basically, they're called heavy washes. I do want to borrow some heavy washes at some point so that I can do just a model or a set of models with them, just to have the proper experience. Look at that arm with that rolled up sleeve. Love models with rolled up sleeves. They look absolutely fantastic. You know what this guy's getting? Where are they? Where are they? Excuse me for half a shake of a lamb's tail. I'm going to go hunting for something that I don't think is here, but I'm going to see if I can find it anyway. They in fact are here. So these are pigment fine liners. Basically, very fine pens. There you go. This guy's got some tattoos on that arm. Just a nice little touch for no reason. I haven't done tattoos on a model in a while. I think the last time I did that was on the Tanith. They've got blue tattoos, loads of them. Andre just bought some speed paints to try out. The jury is still out on whether I like it. Fair enough. I think it's one of those things where it's a completely different style of paint, and so it is a completely different way of painting. But that does mean that you have that in your toolbox now. So if you do want to have that effect, whatever it does for you, if you want to achieve that, you have that, and you can just pull it out and paint something with that style. I know someone says that I can't remember which one it is, but one of the browns makes for just this really lovely looking wood, especially over sculpted wood. Just paint it white, give it one coat of that, and it looks amazing as wood. So yeah, there are certain applications for them where it's just the right tool for the job. This guy's got his sleeves rolled up. No, he doesn't. This guy just has short sleeves. Because this guy... Oh, where'd I put him? There you go. Yeah, this guy has rolled up sleeves. You can just about see the wrinkles in the sleeves where they're rolled up. But this guy has no such thing. That's just a clean end to his shirt. And now for the Robertas. Speed paint is nice, but needs a nice slap chop base. How are you doing the undercoating? Are you doing it as a dry brush, or are you doing a value sketch, or a zenithal, just like a airbrush? I think some of these models, especially Roberta, I think the character models as well, and maybe the flamethrower teams, I think I'm going to have to paint through everything, get to where most of them are done, and then come back and do some extra details on these ones. And it makes sense for the character models. That's definitely the right thing to do for character models, to make them look a little nicer. Oh, no trigger discipline here. She's waving that gun in the air and her finger is very much on the trigger. That's the 1940s we know and love. Where's her sleeve? Where's her sleeve? Hold up a minute. So I just started painting her hand. And this is where I would expect to find the end of a long sleeve, like right at the wrist. And there's some impression there. But it's almost like it carries on to here. And then there's this hard line here where there is some kind of gubbins or something, perhaps a bracelet with some tech on it, just like she's wearing on this arm. But then, further down the arm and around the elbow, that looks like a rolled up sleeve. So is that supposed to be skin there? And that's supposed to be some tech device? Like that whole section is some mechanical thing? Yeah. I don't know. Can't really tell if she's got this sleeve rolled up because she's got this massive gauntlet? No, not gauntlet. Greave? Greaves are for legs. No, they're not. I don't know what the correct term would be. Trying to dry brush, but still trying to figure out the moisture on the brush. Yes, that is something that it took me a long time to learn. I think I've spoken about this before. I'm not sure if it was on a live stream. Here's a couple of brushes that I use for dry brushing. Big old soft makeup ones. But the thing is, this one's much stiffer than this one. This one's very soft. And yeah, you do need to get just a little bit of moisture on the brush. But then kind of mostly dry out the brush because you need only a tiny bit of moisture, but you need it all the way through into the base of the bristle. You need water all the way to here, not just water on the tip. Then you load up with paint, scrape most of it off, and then start dry brushing. If you saw me earlier, I dry brush against my thumbnail because that has the ridges in, kind of so that you can see whether it's gonna dry brush correctly or not. So it's like right here, there it was too wet, but then here just after it I got rid of that first bit. It worked alright. That was for this guy, and that was okay. I'm not an expert at dry brushing by a long way. I can just about do it when the need arises. I really have to decide how I'm doing the realistically, I think I might need to separate this one out completely. Let's get as far as I can with it. Kind of keep it with the rest of the models. Paint up a bunch, and then there will come a point where I can't do any more work on this one in the same way that I'm painting the infantry, the kind of the line models. And so I will just put this one aside and say, right, finish off the line models, then work on the characters separately. Stand up. No time for layabouts. You're in the army now. So this one has just different gubbins on. She does still have gubbins. Bits and stuff and greeble. But they are not the same. Oh, that's another difference between the Wellses. I think I mentioned that the early one has the M3 carbine, which is an assault rifle, whereas the late one has the heavy Tesla rifle, which is the kind of the BAR of the Tesla world. Oh man, I would love... Would I? So what I was about to say is I would love a light machine gun crush weapon, Shiboru weapon. But I'm not actually convinced I would like that. What would that look like? So a Shiboru... Shiboru rifle is one shot. Plus one pen, and that's it. So if you get a hit, you get 2 hits at pen 1 or 1 hit at pen 2 versus a vehicle. Hey Caliban, how you doing? Great to catch the Monday paint session. Building some War of the Roses. Nice. Yeah. My painting handle. I've talked about this a bunch actually today. This is my own design. And so, like everything else in my life, I have a video discussing it. I shall show you that after the stream. I was just actually discussing because next week we have a open day, kind of casual event day for Konflikt 47 at Dale's Place, and we will be well, I will be bringing along a friend from work, and so I have my Japanese for myself. I want to get the fireflies. They're not going to be finished, but I want to get them at least somewhat presentable so that they can my friend can borrow them. So I'll be teaching them how to play Konflikt 47 as the first game of the day, and then probably after that just letting them loose on other players, because Konflikt is that kind of game where, particularly on a casual event day, where you can just kind of get stuck in. And our group is lovely. Like, we look after each other, we help each other out. We always ask, like, oh, how does this rule work? Like, what does this unit do? And someone will pipe up and ask. So it's a really lovely group we've got. So I'm just moving on to the metallics now, which is a nice, easy one to do. Essentially, it is the weapons, the buckle for the repulsor pack, if I can reach it, and then some of the detailing on the mask as well, again, if I can reach it. I can't remember what points limit we actually agreed on for next week's game. I think it was either 1,000 or 1,250, and I think I've got 1,250 for my Americans. I mean, the linebacker is 300 points in its own right, so that's easy. And I've got 3 units of Fireflies, Firefly Officer, and Heavy Infantry. So I've got plenty of that, and I also have the which one is it? Coyote, Guardian, Jackal, one of those, the little one. Hey, they're starting to look all right now. Starting to get there. I think if I can get them, if I can do the metallics and then the lenses today, I'll do the washes off screen, because that's not a particularly interesting part to look at. And then, yeah, they'll be in that, at least in that state for that event, which will be nice. This guy's Thompson does not have a painted grip. Is this brown on my wet palette still usable? I think it is. It is not. Oh, yeah, that's fine. That's fine. moved everything and it's all shuffled up and there we go. So I generally don't put metallic paints like TMMs on my wet palette, and it's not because of the idea that the reflective flakes separate, because that's not really the case. It's more that they thin very differently, and I don't like having them too thin, which is what you end up with on a wet palette. Or what you can end up with. Uni, hi, how you doing? What's up, man? When are we doing Firefly OSL? If you want to teach me how to do OSL, we've got some flamethrowers here. We could do some OSL. Your lighting work is beautiful. So yeah. I just want to get these kind of relatively simply done at the moment. We were discussing a moment ago that there's some character models in here that really do deserve a little extra work. But for the most part, a lot of these Fireflies are just models for war games. They are tiddlywinks with delusions of grandeur. Still need to get that on a t-shirt. But yeah, we can certainly do some. Once we've got the main work done, we can focus on making a couple of interesting additions. Yeah, I have the bad habit. Kind of my process of painting has been for a very long time. Very, very, very quickly get through the base coats, get the wash on, and put them aside to let the wash dry. And then after the wash, I actually pick up and start painting. Right, the base coats aren't really painting. Obviously, they're painting, but they're not like in-depth thinking about exactly how I'm doing stuff. It's just blocking out like this piece is this color, this piece is that color. Get it done. And then get the wash on, and then after that, then I start thinking about like not just how do I want to put highlights on, but what style of highlights. There was one I did recently. I can't remember what it was. Actually, I did it on live stream, and I was talking about highlighting and how we were talking about how detailed the model is, and I said that sometimes it's nice to have a detailed model, and sometimes it's nice to have a like a big smooth area that you can actually paint in. And I painted in a little like fabric pattern, which was a nice thing to do. I don't know why I brought that up. I've actually completely lost track of what I was thinking of. If any of you find my marbles, I have lost them. Andre says, when you have a lot of bare skin on a unit, do you paint different skin tones on the models, or do you go with one for efficiency? It depends on the squad. So if the lore of that unit is that they're all from the same ethnic group, it makes sense that they would have the same skin tone. But if you can, like, if there's anything else, if there's any kind of question about where those people are from, you should actually encounter different skin tones. Just walk down a street, you will see everyone having different skin tones. And so if there's any way of answering that, then yes, I would absolutely kind of vary it up to a point. Because that variation, very natural, realistic variation, makes the unit look more interesting, right? If you have exactly the same color over the entire squad, or over an entire army, it gets monotonous, it gets boring. But if you can introduce a little bit of subtle variation, you can break up the solid color and make it a lot more interesting. And additionally, if you can then bring in like a couple of models with a very different skin tone, that then like adds to it as well. It's like having, if you had a squad with rifles and you have a plasma gun and the plasma gun's painted bright blue, that blue is going to look differently from everything else. I've just painted silver all over my webcam. Yuli says, oh, thanks, man. Yeah, the characters always deserve a little extra love, and you're a master at kit bashing those. I just didn't do it. I did a couple of little bits of kit bashing on the Fireflies. It was relatively subtle, actually. You should see back in my 40k days. Very, very, very early. Yuli says, bearskin? Sounds like an Ursus coded question. Yet no. Not bearskin. Bearskin. Yeah, it's very funny. Yeah, so I actually had... It's almost like every single army I've ever built and painted has had something about it be I want to do this specific army with a particular technique. So my Soviets, for example, now that we've mentioned Ursus, the entire army is painted with non-metallic metal. An entire army with non-metallic metal, yes. But I'm not doing a fine art style. I'm not doing a really in-depth, detailed non-metallic metal like you might do, Yuli. But I'm doing a more cartoony, which is a much quicker... it's kind of like you do a quick fade from black to grey, give it a black wash, and then an edge highlight of like a very light grey. And maybe a bit of an extra wet blend if it's a fairly large area. I just realised I haven't been doing the buckles on the repulsor packs, so I'm going to go back and do those. For my British World War II models, I decided to not use a wash, which was a very big break for my painting style, actually, to do an entire army. Like, I have painted individual models without a wash. I quite enjoy doing that. But painting an entire army without a wash, especially vehicles, was quite the change for me, and I do enjoy that. However, my orcs, which is what I was meant to be talking about, my orcs from 40k, one of my first armies, in fact my second army after everyone started with Space Marines. I was told I needed Space Marines, so I started Space Marines before I knew anything about the game. But then I moved over to orcs, which is much better. See you in a bit, Andre. And the orcs, it wasn't a painting style so much as it was a modelling style. And every single model in my orc army, every single one, from my battle wagon all the way down to my smallest Gretchen, had some conversion. And in some cases it was a relatively simple conversion, like just like cutting through the bicep just above the elbow so that you can reposition and repose it. Same with the knees, same with the wrists, just to reposition and repose stuff. So there's a lot of variety of posing in that army. There's also conversions of like swapping parts, kit bashes. So I've got a Gretchen in my Grot horde. I've got a Gretchen wearing Space Marine gear. He's got a Space Marine power pack and shoulder pads, and he's carrying a bolt gun. Whether the bolt gun works is another matter, but he's got it. And that goes all the way up then to my vehicles. And my war bikes. My warbike squad had 10 models in it, and only 3 of them started off as actual warbike models. I know one of them started off as a Space Marine bike, or maybe more than one, but some of those were scratch built out of just bits and wheels. Of course, I was pretty young. That was 20 years ago, and so the level of skill there is not as high as I have now, but the enthusiasm absolutely was. The enthusiasm was very much in place. Apologies, I have a new phone and it's decided to give me adverts. I need to work out how to turn that off. Just adverts in everything these days. I've had an idea, and I've had this idea for a little while, and I am not convinced about how to go about it. And that is to basically go through my entire collection and count them up, because what I do every year is I do a pile of opportunity where I count the unpainted models that I have. But I really want to contrast that by showing the models that I have painted, because over my life I've painted a lot of models, like a lot. I'm doing it again. I forgot to paint all of the filters on these guys. But the thing is, I can't do the entire... I can't go through everything I've ever painted, because some of it doesn't exist anymore. A lot, like there's quite a lot that has been repainted, but also stuff I've sold here and there. Oh, like my Orc Biker Squad. It was actually interesting when I sold my Orc Biker Squad, because I almost had this moment of regret where I'm like, oh, I shouldn't have sold it. I should have kept hold of them. But that's not really how it worked for me, like in my brain. And in my brain, it worked more along the lines of, I currently do not have any Orc Bikers because I have sold them. And I should fix that by kit bashing a bunch more. And I collected all my scrap stuff in my bits box, and I did kind of lay out a few that would have become Orc Bikers. But by that point I wasn't playing 40k anymore, so it didn't really become... It wasn't a project I was really needing to do. And I think it wasn't until the Wasteland Bikers, which I've definitely finished painting. I painted all the bikers, sorry, all of the bikes in an afternoon. And then 2 years later, I haven't finished painting the riders. I think I've got 2 of the 12 done. I kind of like them with silver lenses. Where was the one I painted blue? I have no idea. I painted 2 blue, but they're in there somewhere. God, working out every army that I have for every game that I've played, that would be a mission. Yuli says, played 40k for 1 edition and that was enough. Maybe I'll try OPR or one of the earlier editions. I think the fun of playing 40k has had its heyday. Unless you are a hyper-competitive munchkin who only cares about winning, I don't think there's anything left for you in 40k. Because like the entire game has shifted in that direction, and it's like, if you like that, fine, but the average gamer doesn't. I was having this conversation with someone a little while back, I won't mention who, but they're working on a game system and they are pushing it to become competitive, and it's like, you're just like you're one guy working on a game system that no one's ever heard of because you're just one guy. You're not gonna start off and instantly become famous. Like, case in point, I've been doing this for 20 years nearly, and I'm certainly not famous. What you need to do is make something that people will actually, that the majority of people are actually going to want to be involved in, which is casual gaming, narrative, story-led games. And then, once you have a player base, then you can work on the competitive side. And you can start with a competitive element to the game. I'm not saying that you absolutely have to rip that out of your game. But you need to actually have a player base playing the game before you get a competitive scene, because no competitive player wants to play a competitive game that there's only 3 people playing. And that's what 40k is in the situation is. There's so many people playing the game now that they can just go, okay, we're a competitive game now, and there are more than enough people who want that. Similarly, in bolt action, there's plenty of people who enjoy. I forgot to paint his mask. Did all yet? There are plenty of people who play bolt action and Konflikt 47 in a casual game hanging out with friends, going to the local group, whatever, kind of like I do. But there's enough people playing bolt action that there is a valid platform or a valid community for competitive play. Now, I don't think it's a particularly good competitive game. And if you've ever seen any of the army lists from competitive players, oh my word. Greenvolt Gabriel, hello. Same, played 10th, and after hearing about all of the retcons and just bad policies around the company, switched to Konflikt and started trying Mythic Earth. I've heard of Mythic Earth, I have not played it. I really want to get Moonstone play. I want to get people playing Moonstone. Because as a game, it's just a fun little game. It's not super in-depth or anything. There's not a great deal going on. But the models are gorgeous. Yuli says, I think when you give people the ability to make the setting their own, they appreciate it. Trench Crusade did that earlier to a great success. So I'm told there is a Trench Crusade group at my local gaming group. Like there's people playing Trench Crusade there. I need to go and encounter them at some point, because I've got a lot of models that could just drop in to Trench Crusade. I can almost just drop the Tanith. Because the Tanith are kind of some of the models more than others, but some of them are very much suited for that. Greenvolt says, heard good things about Moonstone. I would like to say more good things about Moonstone, but it's just going to be me going, the art design is beautiful. I need to trick Yuli to paint some Moonstone, because that would be lovely. Yuli says, I think Warlord is taking a somewhat similar approach with Konflikt, where I think they interact with the community a lot more than Games Workshop does. Yeah, Warlord games are definitely doing a better job of like talking with the community. But also just giving us stuff to talk about, even if there isn't a direct thing, because things like the Sturmriser, like here, just have a massive, ridiculous model and just have it for free. Go on, we know you're going to make videos out of it. Like, how many videos on the Sturmriser have you seen so far? Because I've seen a few. Caliban says, just finishing Trench Crusade board for the store. Started adding the mud texture. Nice. Well, I'm going to have to... See, there are several games that I need to play. And particularly, now that I've said that, I'm just thinking of Achtung Panzer, which I think is much more interesting game than people give it credit for. So I need to play Achtung Panzer with you at some point, Caliban. I also need to play Moonstone, because it's an absolutely beautiful game. I really want to just sit down and paint for like 16 hours one of my Moonstone models, because I don't paint that way often enough, and the Moonstone models just deserve it. And given that I own 4 Moonstone models, and that's an entire faction, right? Not an entire faction, but that's an entire playable list. So I can definitely spend extra time on my fairies. I actually want to go back and watch... Oh, see you in a bit, Yuli. I want to go back and watch Eons of Battle. Jay did a video on Moonstone, and he painted up the fairies as well. And just, I am so annoyed with with Eons of Battle because Jay just paints really, really well in just an afternoon, and he'll paint a whole faction for a mass battle game. It's like, just how? Whereas I'm here struggling to do like batch paint style on these, and these are taking me months. Of course, I think the difference is that I have a real normal job and he doesn't. And by he doesn't, I actually mean he does have a real job, but YouTube is his job, whereas it is not mine. Man, if someone could just pay me to do all of these models. Yeah, don't do that. I would hate that. That guy's looking good. Yeah. I'm not sure if I'm going to make much use of the BARs, but I have them. Sorry, I am way behind on the chat. I looked down for 10 seconds and you all started talking. Yuli says, talks about Moonstone. The goblins look awesome. Yes. So the fairies were my first faction. And I was going to do... Ratman keeps doing this to me. My friend Ratman, he keeps doing this to me. I was going to pick up Japanese for Bolt Action, and then he did Japanese, and so I did all of the other factions and did the Japanese last. But then we started doing Moonstone. I picked up the fairies, and I was like, I'm going to do the goblins as my second faction, and he picked up the goblins, so now I can't. I have to do something else. I think I'm going to do goblins anyway, because the fairies are so cool, and the goblins are so cool. Greenbolt Gabriel says, love the artwork around Trench Crusade, but that's it. Seems like they speedran Games Workshop's business model. I've heard differing points of view, and I don't know enough to really weigh in on that. I don't think a lot of the negative comments that people are making about the company are valid. However, some of them are. And like I say, I don't know enough to really weigh in on that. So I'm going to just say I don't know and leave it at that. I need some more silver. Caliban says, definitely up for that. Really enjoyed it. So misunderstood. I assume we're talking about Acton Panzer at that point. And Andre says, is Moonstone the game you did a 50 quid video about? I think I did. In fact, give me half a second. Oh, I can't even type Moonstone. Moonstone models are beautiful. Yes, I did. And I'm going to have to mute this because it's going to play over the stream. Yeah. Let's see how this goes. Oh, it's not happy about that. There we go. Yeah, so I didn't plan this one out. So this is my video on Moonstone that that Andre just pointed out, and at the end of it, I chose the Dranya model and the Enclave. So the Enclave are one of the starter sets for the fairies, and it has the 3 fairies that I like the most. And the Dranya model was this like shape-shifting fox woman, just such a cool model. The artwork for that, like the colored artwork for that, is just beautiful. And I keep saying in my £50 challenge videos that the whole point of them is that I don't buy the models. I'm just going to the website, picking the cool stuff, and then pretending to buy them to satisfy my urge to buy stuff. And then I don't buy the stuff. And it never works because I ended up buying, but just about every time I've done this, I've ended up buying a lot of the models from the final pick. And I own a Dranya. I actually bought 3 of them because my sister wanted one and Ratman wanted one, so I bought 3. And then I also bought the Enclave because that's my main faction. So I've got those. I also have one of the other fairies because someone else bought them and split a box. So I've got the Tooth Fairy version, Tooth Fairy model. Where's the stream? Where's the stream? There we go. All right, everything's back to normal. Oh, we've only got 15 minutes left. I'm going to have to speedrun the rest of these models, get the metalworks done. Or I might just overrun a bit. It's not like I have a bedtime, I just have work tomorrow. And we're just doing the metallics. What else do I need to do before I do the wash? Is there much? Oh yeah, there is. I need to do the lenses, which I think I do still want to do blue. They do look good in silver, but I think the blue is the more appropriate one, like the really pale blue. And then I need to do the gold on the repulsor packs. Repulsor packs and the Thompsons, actually. So I need to do gold and the light blue. It's not a great deal of work, but I do need to do those bits. Greenvolt Gabriel says, I have a gamer like that too. Is that someone stealing your ideas? Taking the faction that you want to paint. It's like, well, I want to do that, but fine, I'll do a different faction. I got around it with Bolt Action because I just did every faction. And I just did the Japanese last. Andre says, don't forget to post the pics. Yes. So I need to, tomorrow I need to take some pictures anyway. So if I grab out the Shred Troopen that I finished up last week, I need to post a picture of those. So thanks for reminding me there. This clip is actually working a lot better than I thought it would. I've been painting Bolt Action models for years and I've always used the blue tack rather than this one, but this is fine. I think it might be just because the Fireflies are raised up off of the bases. They're all like really tall, like and they have a rock separating them, so maybe it's that. Green Bolt always picks the next faction you want. Yeah, definitely. Well, we do have a bit of a similar style. This is the one. This is my sample model. He's done. I don't need to. Did I do the? Yeah. Yeah, me and Ratman have a similar style. We like kind of similar things. It's not all the same stuff. But there's definitely some times when we both go after the same thing. I think my brush heard that I was going to end the stream soon, and it's now rebelling against me. So, I want to go now. It's like that guy that you work with that's always just sitting there waiting for end of work time and just staring at the clock. It's like, do some bloody work, you lazy Ron. What's it? Especially when I'm ahead, so far ahead in my work that I've come along and helped you for 2 hours today. I don't throw that back in my face by just sitting there staring at the clock at the end of the day. Mentioning no names. Not that they're ever going to see the stream, but mentioning no names. Yuli says, is there a faction in Konflikt that you would like to play, but maybe change their law entirely, or do a rigid theme for them? For example, Moon Axis, Arctic Soviet Navy, Allied Italy. So I don't think the lore of Konflikt 47 is defined enough to actually wander off of it yet. So if you did Moon Axis or Arctic Soviets or whatever, that would be fine, because there's nowhere in the law that says that you can't do any of that. That said, I do want to do Italy, but I want to do both Italies. I want to have so it's this idea I've had since the launch of Second that I didn't really put any time into, and I will at some point. Is I want to make a Stahltruppen body, just the torso, with the segmentatum armor that the Romans had, because that would be really cool for the Italian Konflikt 47 to have like that Roman inspired armor on some Stahltruppen, and I would just use the Axis army and bring in and just say, oh yeah, this Axis unit has an Italian driver. It's an Italian Vogelspinner because it's got an Italian driver in it, and stuff like that. It actually might be what I want to do is switch my German Axis over to more monsters than the heavy infantry, and then move the heavy infantry over to the Romans, the Italians. But then I also want to do, I've just noticed this guy's grip is also not painted. Where's my brown? But then I also want to do the southern Italians, which would entail, amongst other things, Italian Fireflies. And it also includes a squad of both the damage value 6 armoured gladiator robot things that from first edition that I really like. I wish they'd have done an officer version, because I did all the officers, but they didn't make an officer version of that. And then that's for the North Italians, and then the South Italians have the British Galahad suit with is it the Bersaglieri? Yes, it is, because they've got the plumes on their helmets. And I have Bersaglieri as my the veterans for my bolt action Italians, so it would fit thematically with them. So I do want to do North and South Italians at some point, but I'm not sure if I want to just get stuck in and do that, or if I want to see where Warlord goes. Because if Warlord starts making models for the Italians, and there's been a lot of people asking for Italians, several times in interviews, Warlord Games employees have said, "Oh yeah, people keep talking about Italians, and we didn't make any Italians, so we're probably going to have to go away and make some." It's like, yes, make us some Italians. I kind of want to get that. I can't remember the character's name, but there was a character in first edition for the Italians, and I think he must have been a Southern Italian, because he had the Galahad suit. So I'd like to see him again. Yeah, I definitely need to do some more detail on the characters. There's just a couple of extra bits on all of them. I do like that you mentioned Moon Nazi specifically, because a friend of mine was making NASA punk Stahltruppen and Fireflies. So it was just painting Fireflies white, and then he was using some. I don't think they were War Games Atlantic. What were they? They might have been Stargrave, actually. But whatever it was a sprue of infantry in, like, not quite modern NASA-inspired spacesuit, with the big square rebreather on the back and the massive domed helmet. One thing I do want to do is maybe not a lot of them, but just a couple of themed transports. And the thing that the model, there's a few people that have made basically the same thing, and I kind of want to copy it, is the zombie truck. So you take just a transport truck, and then you put loads of barbed wire and warning signs on the outside to make it like the zombies are inside here, be careful, kind of thing. And then you use that as your transport for Totem Core or Shibita. Can't see your buckle. Moon actually sound like fun. Reminds me of the Wolfenstein games. So many people talk about Wolfenstein. Excuse me. Thank you. A lot of people talk about Wolfenstein when it comes to Konflikt. And then Red Alert. And I've never played Red Alert. I've played one of the Wolfenstein games. But Red Alert definitely is not my style. I was never really into real-time strategies. The only real-time strategy I ever really liked was Dune. No, not that one. Yes, that one. It was a first-person wander about, have a story, and oh, by the way, the game is actually in real time and there's a real-time strategy playing in the background game. I love it. It's great. I actually did beat it a couple times. It's very, very hard if you don't know what you're doing. Especially if you get stuck in the real-time strategy view. So the game has, let's say, it's mostly first person, but it's like framed first person, like a point-and-click adventure game. And then you can go into a map view and kind of scroll around the planet. Oh, here's one of the officers. He's got a shotgun. So we'll do the shotgun in metal as well. Have I missed one of the other officers? Because there should be two with shotguns. Oh, I'm going to have to find him. Oh. Found him. So yeah, first person, framed first person, so you move around like a point-and-click adventure game. And you can click on characters to talk to them. And one thing you have to do is, for anyone who has any knowledge of the Dune series, and Paul Atreides has to send, like, the whole reason why he's there is to mine spice. And so he has to send spice off to the rest of the galaxy. And it is kind of the Emperor himself. The Emperor himself shows up on a holo display in one of the rooms of the palace, and he's like, I want this much spice, and you're like, okay, I'll send it, and then you send it. And if you're late, he'll like charge you more. You have to send more spice melange to compensate for being late. But at first, you don't get any warning when it's due. And so you have to keep going to that room to check and see if there's a message saying, oh, yeah, you do some spice. And so what can happen is, if you're not careful, you end up late and you have to pay the extra fine when you do pick it up. But if you're very late, it will end the game, because the Emperor will just be like, no, you're not doing your job properly, you're fired, get off the planet, I'm giving this to someone else. However, as you progress through the game and you get further and further out on the planet, you can't get back to that room, and so it becomes very dangerous, because you have this literal just insta-kill endgame thing if you're not paying attention to this. Like, it will just end the game for you if you're late enough. But there is a like a communication, like a long-range communication system once you hit a certain point in the story. So you need to unlock your kind of Muad'Dib powers, and every now and again, your assistant in the palace will mind message you and say, "Oh, there's a shipment due. Come back to the palace and like talk to the emperor and send it off." But you only get that message when you're in first person view, not when you're on the map. And so I was playing once, and I was basically in the end game. I was having a war with the Harkonnens. I was sending soldiers all over the place, smashing all of their stages, well, smashing all of their forts and turning them into stages. And then, right when I was at this point where I was like thinking of the last push into where the Harkonnens' palace was, that the game just ended, and I realized, oh, I've been in the map view for the last like hour and a half of gameplay, and I'm way late on my spice quota, so I've just been kicked off the planet for being late, and I was so mad. It's like, yeah, well, start from the beginning, start from the scratch. Yudi says, speaking of RTS, what are your thoughts on StarCraft, both the video game, computer game, and the new board game? So I have not played StarCraft, either computer game or board game. I have seen people discussing the board game model. I've had a look at the models a little bit, and they seem nice. Nothing I'm particularly personally interested in. But yeah, I've never played StarCraft, so it was probably not going to be anything I'm really interested in. There was another one that I played. Sins of a Solar Empire. It's a like spaceship game. I played that for a bit with some friends. That was good fun. I think the one thing that always gets me about most real-time strategies like StarCraft and others, Command and Conquer as well, is that you have to mine some resource to build people, and it's all very abstract in a way. And I'm used to playing first-person shooters where everything is very, not necessarily realistic, but like straight up. In terms of how things work, and yeah, not realistic but reasonable in how things work. Oh, that said, I did play a lot of Age of Empires 2, but I think everyone played a lot of Age of Empires 2 because it's Age of Empires 2. A little while ago, my TV decided that I was a big fan of Age of Empires 2 and decided to just spam me with... His mask isn't painted. I'm going to have to get the brown again. And spam me with a guy streaming videos, like streaming games, like other people's games. And he'll comment on like the techniques that they're using, the tactics that they're using, and so on. It's like, yeah, kind of interesting. Right, put you there because you need some brown. I remember buying books with games. We had the time code ourselves. Anyone else, or am I a fossil? Oh, my boy Andre. I have somewhere in this house, within 7 meters of me right now, I have a book of games. A book of computer games, and it's in BASIC, which I can't remember what the acronym BASIC stands for. It's Beginners Something Coding Language. Yuli says Age of Empires 2 was awesome. Yeah. But yeah, so it's in basic, and you literally you copy in what's on the page onto your screen. You type in the code, and then you can run it and play a game. And I know for a fact that it has Moonlander, which is where you have a little spaceship, starts at the top of the screen, and it drops to the bottom of the screen. And if you don't land on the landing pad, you die. And so you've got left and right controls, but then you also have a thrust, which just points directly upwards. And gravity lets you come down, and so you need to control the thrust versus gravity by pressing up. And then you need to control left and right, and it doesn't slow down by itself. It only like if you go left, you have to press right to slow yourself down. So there's no air resistance programmed into it. I'm pretty sure that you can actually program air resistance into it, but there wasn't in the version that I have. And I definitely remember writing a greeting program where it says, "Hi, how are you?" Like, line 1, print, quote, "How are you?" unquote. Go to line 2. If good, then go to line 3. If bad, go to line 4. And line 3 would be print, "Awesome." And line 4 would be print, "Oh, that sucks." And then end. Line 5, end. I've definitely missed some. I'm just looking over the box in front of me, and I've definitely missed a few. A few masks. I've got all the weapons, which is kind of the biggest part of them. But I have missed a few masks, so I'll have to tidy those up later. We are actually well over our allotted time now. I usually finish at 9 o'clock, and it's now 15:15. And I realise that a lot of you will be wanting to get over to the other stream. Although I think he's away. He's on holiday this week. So maybe we can run on a bit. But I will be ending soon anyway. So if anyone has any comments, any questions, any suggestions, any discussions to be had, post them now, and I shall answer them as quickly as I can before the stream ends. It's meant to be brown in there as well. Oh, there's meant to be so much metallic on her. I'm just going to have to come back to these, I think. I'm just going to have to come back to the Roberta Wells. This one has less stuff. Yeah, but there's still a lot. I need to concentrate on them. Yeah. Thank you, Yuli, for your support. If only the 28 views I got compared with his, 5,000 on an average stream. It is what it is. That's fine. Andre says, would painting some things from the pile on stream be a way to get through it? That is why I have the stream. That is why I am doing the stream. Well, there are several reasons why I'm live streaming my painting, but that's one of the big ones. Because there's a lot of models that I do just want to get painted, but I don't necessarily have an idea for a video on them, because I I can't turn every single thing into content, right? I mean, I am. But when I make a video on a particular model, like painting a particular model, I like to have a concept. Like like to have something to talk about, whether it's a particular technique that I'm using, whether it's a process that I'm using, or whether that specific model has something interesting about it. So like for the Fireflies, I had something to talk about when I was building them, because they're the new plastic sprue for Warlock Games, and I did get a bit mad about not having a Tesla Thompson loose. Like, give me a loose Tesla Thompson so I can kit bash a bit, please. But when it comes to painting them, I am just painting them in very similar way to my US infantry. Now, if I was painting these in, I've seen some people paint them up as like Captain America style. That would be worth a video, but I'm not doing that. Although I do realise that the linebacker pilot is just sitting here bright blue for absolutely no reason. Andre says, I know my answer is late, but I think the word you were looking for is braces. Is that for the Roberta's Wells? The arm things here that she's wearing in both versions of the model, actually, because there's one there as well, are braces. Yeah, I think that's correct. This would kind of be a fun cosplay to do, because you just get a US, like a reproduction US uniform, shirt and trousers, throw on a bunch of airsoft tack gear, throw on a bunch of steampunk cosplay tech looking stuff and some pipes, some like vacuum cleaner, or I found somewhere on eBay selling pipes for dishwashers for like 13 pence. I was like, if I was doing a cosplay that needed them, I'd have them, but I don't. So you can do all sorts of stuff like that, and you could actually make a real rucksack and hide it with some gubbins on it. Because the one thing that no one ever thinks about with cosplay is stowage. You need to be able to carry stuff when you're wearing your cosplay. So include a bag as part of your cosplay. Yudi says, we should get a story for the linebacker pilot between him and the Kazakh. Those are my two very favourite conversions. Well, thank you very much for them. I'm actually really happy with the linebacker conversion, because it's a non-combat like pose. Because I could very easily put this in a position where he's waving the Tesla around, like gunning away with the autocannons or the heavy machine guns. But it just struck me that I could put the pilot leaning against there, reading a map, trying to work out where the heck he is, and it's just out of combat, and it's just a really nice little diorama that I can also still use in a game. I do like how this one came out. And of course the Stormtrooper that was just crushed underfoot there. The Cossack, and I'm going to keep calling it a Cossack because it said Cossack on the box, but they renamed the Cossack to the Kazakh, and it's like, those are two very different groups of people. Why are you conflating them? Anyway, that's beside the point. Realistically, this is just a repose of the leg, so this is very simple. I think I cut here and crunched up this leg, and then I cut a few places on this to stretch out this leg to make it look like it's running. And then just a dead Ashigaru, fairly basic for the base. Basic on the base. Ha 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 ha. I just paint this one as well. This one is cool. I'm not in a rush on this one because I don't have anything like enough Russians. I'm not rushed. That was not. I did not intend that pun, but that works quite well. I'm not rushing on the Russians. Russians are coming, obviously. I'm gonna have all 5 nations for Konflikt, And I'm going to have Italians as well, both North and South Italians. So all of that will appear on the channel eventually. Yuli says, right, sometimes the non-combat conversions are the most fun. Yeah, I actually have an idea, and I have the parts for it. I think I have the parts for it, of some goblins and just a little bit of a swamp that some goblins are hanging around in, and they're growing mushrooms. So in a lot of goblin lore, especially in 40k with the Gretchen, actually, the Gretchen look after mushrooms to feed the orcs, or in other lore, the goblins are kind of farmers of mushrooms for various reasons. Yuli says, quit Stalin on your Soviets, man. Yeah, okay, well done. Good job. Stolstrooping was a sweet detail. Keep calling it the Cossack too. Just put the spelling they used for clarity. Yeah, so they do now, Warlord Games do now call that model the Kazakh. So you're not wrong. That is the current name for that model. It's just that I find it strange that they renamed the model from Cossack to Kazakh, because the Cossack people and the Kazakh people are both within the Soviet Union. They have similar sounding names, but they're very different cultures. Neither of them did very well under the Soviet Union, because history, learn some. It is a nice model though. What do I need? How much more do I need to do on this? I need to do quite a lot more highlighting on the main armor, because I have currently done none. I've done a bit on the canopy. I do want to differentiate the canopy. I want to bring that back out in blue, because it's kind of this murky green at the moment. So I want to highlight that up just really subtly to make it look a bit more blue. Whereas the armor is going to stay brown, but it's going to be a lighter brown. And then there's a bunch of places where there's more metalwork. So I did say I'm doing a cartoonish non-metallic metal on my Soviets, so you can see this highlighting here and this highlighting here. It's definitely not a fine art style of non-metallic metal. It's just a really subtle, kind of dull reflection kind of look. But there's more metalwork to go around here. There's also some cabling to do. So other than the main armor, there's actually not that much, but the main armor is the big job here, when I haven't started on that. There's a fair amount to go. And then snow on the base, just to finish it off. Linebacker, I haven't started. I've done the airbrush base coat, that's it. I'm not sure if I want to do like a big stars and stripes, like a big wavy flag on the side, because that would be fun. Where's my weapons? Flamethrower. Heavy machine guns. And the autocannons look cooler. The thing with making them magnesized like I have is I can actually put one autocannon and one heavy machine gun on. Can't do it in the rules, but I can do it on the model because that just looks cool. And this guy licked his finger and holding it up in the wind, trying to see which way the breeze is blowing with his bazooka. All right, I'm kind of rambling at this point, so I will end the stream up. So thank you to everybody who came past. We had quite a bit of conversation today, which is always nice to hear. We ran on a bit extra, which is fine. It's 9:30 now, quite a bit later than I usually go. But we've also done a fair bit on these fireflies. I need to do the lenses of the masks, and I need to do the gold, and then I can do the wash. So next stream, we'll probably tidy those up and send them off to wash. and work on some Axis stuff as well. My video for next week is a little bit up in the air because I don't have anything like partially complete. I don't have anything that I can just easily finish off. And so I'm going to have to pick a project. I'm going to have to pick one of the videos I've got and just work on it for the rest of the week. Put everything else aside and just finish something. I do have a discussion on using mundane units in Konflikt 47. So like regular rifle squads and stuff. I have a video on the Italian vehicles, but I need to paint those. That wouldn't be too hard. I just need to paint them and edit the video there. I can potentially do that in the week, so that's an option. There's a few other Konflikt videos as well that are kind of started, but I would need to focus on them. I basically just need to pick one and get it done. So at the moment, I don't know which one that is going to be, but there will be a video of some description. I haven't missed a week in a while, but because my videos have kind of picked up recently, and I'm not sure why. Yuli says, I vote for making a video on the Soviets. Never let them know your next move. I actually do have a video in the works on the new Soviet and the new Japanese sprue, because I want to just talk about the update sprues that Warlord Games make. Italian vehicles sound cool. Yeah. So if I do that one, the Italian vehicles is building the Caro Amato. No, sorry. Building the... Because I've already built the Caro Amato. It's building the auto blender, the armored car, the AB43, AB4143, and then painting that and also the Caro Amato. So painting both vehicles, because I built the Caro Amato on the video where I talked about the sprue sale, but I haven't painted it yet. So if I build the auto blender, the video will be about the auto blender, and oh, by the way, I'm also painting Caro Amato as well, and I'm painting them in exactly the same style, so it makes sense to paint them together. So that will be one video, whether it's this week's video or down the line, I don't know. But that's definitely on the cards. If anyone has any other kind of tactical discussion, list building discussion ideas for Konflikt 47, let me know those as well, because I really did enjoy doing the officers one, and I'm enjoying the work I have done on the mundane squads as well, because it's an interesting way to think about the game. So I'm liking doing that. But we are now at 9:30, so I've streamed for 2.5 hours now, one of my longer streams. I usually stream for 2 hours. But thank you to everyone for coming past. Yeah, so stream next week will probably be the Fireflies, and the video will be whatever the video will be. I do have a donation link in the description, and for anyone watching the VOD, do post a comment in the comment section down below. But for now, I'm ED-SKaR, always will be, and thank you very much for watching.